Hi everyone, I'm Let 'em Taters. You can call me Taters. In today's Power Index video, we're looking at our first cross-class team, chosen for being imperative to the backstory of our primary subject, Rogue. Today, we look at the Brotherhood of Mutants, MCOC edition, led by the master of magnetism, Magneto, and including Magneto Marvel Now, Sabertooth, Beast, Juggernaut, and Scarlet Witch. Now before we get started, let's clear something up for those who may not know. Anna Marie, nicknamed Rogue for her runaway attempts as a teenager, fell into a depression after her first kiss left her boyfriend in a coma from which he never awoke. She was sought for her life force and ability-stealing powers by Mystique and manipulated to join the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, an anti-human task force originally formed by Magneto. While with the Brotherhood, Rogue fought and defeated Marvel icons like Captain America, Wolverine, and most importantly, the original Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, whose powers and memories Rogue absorbed. Only once Carol's memories began tormenting Rogue did Rogue seek out Charles Xavier's school and renounce her anger, becoming an X-Men hero. Rogue was initially a villain, later to be redeemed. Rogue is, of course, a mutant champion, and her subclass is Control Counter. The first stat is Practical DPS. For my definitions of each stat, reference the description box. Rogue's base attack and crit rate are both in the 60th percentile. Her given damage is tied for 36th out of 173 champs, and she naturally crits on 26% of her hits. At max sig, she gains a 40% crit rating boost on special attacks, and her crit damage is 49th among all characters. With those numbers, her average damage, with no offense masteries or synergies, on a full combo chained into SP1 or SP2, would rank roughly 4th in MCOC, excluding champs who deal damage over time effects. Well above average overall, 6 out of 10 in DPS. Her health, armor, and block proficiency are all poor. They float between the 30th and 40th percentile, but her SP1 lifesteals for equal to the damage it deals. And with a 2/3 chance to crit on special attacks at max sig level, especially if your masteries are built for optimal damage, such as with suicides, the health gained can be eye-popping. And as far as special attack related regen abilities go, it's nice that Rogue's comes from her SP1 instead of a later special like Clairvoyance SP2, which gives Rogue a much quicker path to recovery. Lastly, because Rogue absorbed Miss Marvel's physiology, and in combination with her mutant genes, she metabolizes all debuffs 70% faster. 7 out of 10 for sustainability. Rogue's SP2 and SP3 attacks both steal up to 27% of the opponent's stored power. The SP3 has a flat rate, and the SP2, of which there are 3 hits, steals 9% on landed strikes. So as long as you cleanly land the entire special attack, the opponent's power is 27% lower, and yours is that much higher. Despite the mechanics of her specials related power control being the same as champs like Hawkeye, Kang, and Vision Age of Ultron, those champs score higher because Hawkeye's and Vision's abilities are a flat portion of the defender's max power, as opposed to stored power. They're more potent and can be accessed via the Special 1. And Kang, whose drain is exclusively from his SP2, depletes 100% of the opponent's power. Further, the power Rogue gains from these moves doesn't factor into this category, as power gain abilities are utilities in Power Index. 2 out of 5 here for Rogue. For utility, let's just start with her power steal, specifically the power she gains from her power steal attacks. Against an opponent with 3 bars of power, her SP2 or SP3 will net her just under a bar of her own, close enough to a full bar that she can easily reach one with an attack combo thereafter. But she also copies all opponent buffs with her SP1, even through block, and maintains those buffs as long as she's able to make contact with the opponent, including hitting into their block, within 3 seconds of stealing. And her Rapid Shrug ability applies to utility debuffs, such as Armor Break, Weakness, Fatigue, and even active power locks and heal blocks. Another 2 out of 5. Rogue's 70% metabolism rate reduces the duration of bleed effects 3.5 times faster than the Suture Mastery at max level. It's equal to a theoretical level 13 Suture. And because the lifesteal potential on her SP1 is dependent on damage dealt, the extra 90% base attack on specials, with 1 point in recoil and 3 out of 3 in both Liquid Courage and Double Edge, means she can offset the 5% health lost from recoil with a 4 to 6x health gain, and even higher with maximum recoil, which can top her attack boost from suicides at 120% at the cost of only 10% of her health. Rogue benefits greatly from suicides, 3 out of 5. As far as playability goes, Rogue isn't complicated. Parry, combo into SB1 for sustainability, same into SB2 or SB3 for power control. Trying to maintain her buff steal requires aggressive, sometimes risky play, and should be entirely avoided in matchups against Mystic Dispersion and Buffet-enhanced defenders, but it's not a requirement, and in many cases, it's unnecessary. More a bonus option than an essential technique. 5 points in playability, bringing her overall score to 7.34, upper half of tier 6. As she is in the comics, Rogue is a force in MCOC. And now, Magneto, one of the great anti-heroes in all of popular culture, molded by the childhood traumas of continuous bullying and Nazi-instituted ghettos and extermination camps, founded the Brotherhood for one reason: to eradicate humans. Wow, that gave me goosebumps. And man, did Kabam nail this one. This guy is a terrifying cyclone of prowess and unhinged damage, and shit, the buff's not even live yet, is it? And should I cut this part, or? I mean, it's going to sound so lame now. So, Magneto is basically an inversion of his comic self. He's weak, he's fragile, he's insultingly simple, and his signature ability, the special ability that only he has, Magneto, the master of magnetism, is called Refraction, which caps his damage received to 12%.
Are you f***ing kidding me?
Of his 6 basic champ values, attack, crit rate, crit damage, health, armor, and block proficiency, only one meets average: crit rate, which is an uninspiring 23%. He does reduce opponent ability accuracy by 40% when fighting metal champs. His SP2 inflicts a 10-second heal block, and his SP3 inflicts both heal block and armor breaks for the same duration. Marvel Now Magneto is a near clone, except that his SIG ability, urgently called Urgent Refraction, which makes me want to urgently close my eyes forever, caps damage taken at 4%, which is actually fantastic, and he reduces metal characters' ability accuracy by a stronger 60%, but only sporadically, unlike Red version's indefinite reduction. Both score a 5.0 thanks to utilities and the ability to tank special 3s with their SIGs, and both are about to be very cool and appropriately strong, finally. Tier 3 for now. Sabertooth served multiple stints with the Brotherhood, each time recruited by Mystique, and one of which led to his dismemberment by Wolverine while attacking the X-Mansion. Gnarly. His base attack, crit rate, and crit damage are very low, but he gains an expiring Fury buff for every 10 hits dealt or 5 taken, or on his SP3 attack. His SP2 grants a permanent passive Fury, and he can convert all other Fury buffs into passives by throwing an SP1 or dashing back and idling for 1 second. He converts up to 5 passive Furies per fight, and carries them over to the next fight as long as he has a persistent charge. He can stack up to 15 passives naturally. With just 3 Furies, Sabertooth's attack rating eclipses Dr. Doom's, which is the highest in MCOC. At 15 passives, his attack is 3 times bigger than Dr. Doom's. His specials also have a 60% chance to inflict a bleed over 8 seconds, whose value is 80% of his natural base attack. The downside to Sabertooth's DPS is that it requires 3 fights to peak, and its longevity is at the mercy of his persistent charges, which randomly generate between 3 and 6 when he enters a fight with none, and which reset all of his passives upon reaching 0 again. For that reason, I'm giving him a 6 out of 10 in DPS. He gets a 6 in sustainability due to average health and block proficiency, plus cold immunities, and his passive regen capability, even though it only activates when being struck. He also nets 1 in utility because he automatically armor breaks skill champs every time he produces a Fury buff, and his Fury and regen abilities have a plus 120% ability accuracy at max SIG. A respectable 5.31 for Sabertooth, tier 4. The next champ is Beast, the super genius Henry McCoy, whom the Brotherhood convinced had killed Iron Man and guilted into joining their club. He quickly realized he'd been tricked and soloed their entire team. If only he was that badass in MCOC. His attack and health are perfectly average, but crit, armor, and block stats all rank in the bottom third. He's slightly confusing to play, but the gist is he has 2 forms, and performing specific combos has different beneficial effects depending on which form he's in. If he enters a fight above 50% health, he starts in freestyle form, during which standard medium ending combos raise his crit rate from 16% to 20% at max SIG, inflict a bleed on crits equal to 70% of his base attack, and deal burst damage that when added to his base attack would top Dr. Doom's. Entering a fight below 50% health starts Beast in acrobatic form, and if he follows a parry with a 4-hit medium, light, light, medium combo, he reduces opponent defensive combat power rate, the power they get from being struck, and can regenerate up to 7% of his max health from such combo at max sig. When starting in acrobatic form, he can switch to freestyle within SB1. When in freestyle, he can switch to acrobatic within SB2. One form benefits his DPS, the other his sustainability, but the rewards don't match the means by which they're achieved. He gets a point in Suicide's compatibility because he's 65% bleed resistant and doesn't rely on special attacks unless you need or want to switch forms. 5.16 Tier 3. Juggernaut was a part of 2 separate Brotherhood incarnations, the first of which was as a mole for the X-Men, who arranged for Juggernaut to provide false plans to the Brotherhood, who prepared an attack on the X-Men. Oh, the drama. His HP is above average, and his armor rating, despite a poor starting value, automatically gets a boost when he enters a fight that raises his total armor score to second in the contest behind Dr. Doom's. His attack metrics are average to severely below, with the only chance for increase coming on taken hits and at an eye-rolling 11% rate. He squeezes out 2 points in utility for his unstoppable buff and his guaranteed stagger rate on all heavy attacks, which is quite nice. Jugs gets a 4.53, imprisoned in Tier 2. After escaping experimentation by a mad geneticist who'd become known across the galaxy as the High Evolutionary, Wanda Maximoff and her brother roamed Central Europe homeless. Overwhelmed by her powers, Wanda accidentally torched a village and was dubbed the Scarlet Witch. Magneto rescued Wanda from the incensed villagers and enlisted her in the Brotherhood as a debt for his deed. Her kit in MCOC fairly reflects her struggle to manage her abilities, as she's both incredibly powerful and the most RNG-dependent character in the game. Her attack and crit rate are both above the 60th percentile, and at max sig, she produces a random collection of buffs and debuffs at a 90% chance upon any landed critical hit, for or against her. It's fittingly called Chaos Magic. There are 16 total buffs that can appear, and up to 8 can appear at once. They include regeneration, attack-boosting buffs like Fury and Cruelty, Power Lock, Steal and Drain, Armor, and Poison, among others. Her crits also have a 90% flat rate to nullify one opponent buff, and her SB3 nullifies all opponent buffs, same as Magic's SB3. She has very low health, armor, and block proficiency, certainly an attempt by the designers to balance her, and because her regen is one of 16 possible magic spells, she settles at a 6 in sustainability, although with some luck to stack multiple regens, she'll feel like a 10 at times. 7.66 is her final tally, tied with Blade as the highest scored champ in Tier 6. Here's the updated chart for all champs, now representing every class in MCOC. Of course, higher scores on the left, and ties, as you know, are conjoined and listed alphabetically. Alright, we did it. I've managed to keep this up for 6 straight weeks, 7 counting the intro video, and the only reason is because of your support. I've had my eyes open for an excuse to give this up, but I feel like doing so at this point would let people down, and that's pretty special. Please leave a like on this video for me, subscribe, and consider sharing a link in your Alliance chats. Spread the word for me. Let's make the weekly premiere a Be There type of event. I'm excited to share that I've been accepted into the Content Creator Program. I applied for the express purpose of gaining access to the CCP server, where I can test any champ at any rank and sig level specifically for this series. And of course, it'll enable me to make videos on new champs, something I intended to do, but which I've only done for Guardian so far. Reason being, I won't do a video on a champ I can't play enough to form and validate opinions about. Because I enjoyed the team-up grouping for this video, unless the Magnetos meet their evolution by the end of this week, the next feature will be on Namor and the Illuminati, a secret council of Marvel's greatest leaders. Either way, I'll see you next week.